Okay, so my name is Tuli, I come from England, and I will be your moderator for this session. And today we're going to be discussing the history, the Afro-Latin phenomenon, so the history of salsa and how it came about. And we have very experienced panelists with us this afternoon. And we have, I'll do a very brief introduction, but I'll let themselves to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their background and why they're part of the panel. So first of all, we have Ariel Rios, who comes from Cuba. He's a very well-respected cultural dance teacher, master in the UK. So Ariel, welcome. So if you would like to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Right, good evening. Good afternoon, sorry. Yeah, well, my name is, as I say, Ariel Rios Robert. I'm coming from Cuba. I'm a Cuban dance teacher. And basically also teach Cuban culture. My background is more about all different dance from Cuba, from Latin America, and also from Europe. It's basically the way you get your certificate to become a teacher in Cuba. And also I quite into the choreography and try to put together all the roots of different Cuban dance and music as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ariel. Welcome. Okay, next up, we have one of the biggest, if not the biggest, promoter in the UK. They've been organizing salsa events in the UK for the last almost 20 years now. And Mr. Robert and Jean White, his wife is here as well, who co-organize one of the biggest festivals in London. So, and they're a huge influence in the salsa scene in the UK, very well respected individuals. And my mentor happened to be my mentor as well. I'm a DJ, by the way, so the first person who gave me an opportunity was Mr. White, so thank you so much for that. And yes.
We can't afford her now.
So Robert, if you would like to tell us a little bit about Mambo City.
Mambo City, me and Jean, we started dancing back in 1992, 93, and we loved the dance. We started very much in the cultural side of it, with Colombian and Cuban. And then in 97, we started taking trips to New York, learning about crossbody dance on two and all that. And then in 99, we started Mambo City and started organizing classes. It was mainly about classes and bringing dancers from abroad to the UK to try and inspire and grow dance. And from there, in 99, we started Mambo City. In 2000, we say we'll take a break from work and try and focus on Mambo City for a year because we were in a recession. You know, we had a lot of things going on. And then we're still on that journey of taking that break. Yeah? So yeah, we run a number of events, we run like six festivals.
Successfully as well.
Yeah, successful. We do holidays, dance holidays. Met Ariel on one of these holidays many, many years ago, and he's been quite a close friend since. Almost got me arrested in Cuba. Thought I was a Cuban accosting a tourist. Him the tourist, me the Cuban. So yeah, so that's our journey, and we're here today.
Fantastic. And last but not least, indeed, is founder and member of the band, the amazing band, and up-and-coming, well, they're not up-and-coming anymore, but a very well-established band, and it's Tromboranga, who's going to be performing this weekend. So I'm sure you all guys are geared up for coming to the concert. And so I present you Mr. Joaquin Ateaga from Venezuela.
Hello. Yeah, well, I'm Joaquin. I'm a musician. I'm from Venezuela. I've been living for 20 years in Barcelona, Spain, and well, I've been pretty much in music since I'm young, and
You're still young.
I look young. And well, I've been recording a lot of albums and producing a lot of salsa albums, and also some pop and Latin artists. And last 7 or 8 years I've been teaching, doing a lot of teaching also, not dancing, but teaching salsa and teaching musicality for dancers, which is like a new journey for me, because I'm not a dancer, but I've learned a lot about it. And I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Welcome, Joaquin. Thank you so much. So basically this afternoon, the reason we have this panel is because we want to give you the perspective from a dancer's point of view, from a promoter's point of view, and from a musician point of view. So we're going to be talking about the history, more or less. We're going to try to take you through the history and their points of view of the Afro-Latin phenomenon. Now, if you have a question, please put your hand up, and then we'll pass the microphone for you. Well, I'm sure we're small enough, so we will be able probably to do it without a microphone. But just let me know whether you have a particular question, and then we'll give you the opportunity to ask the panelists. So, okay, so where shall we begin? So the history of salsa, Ariel, the Afro-Latin influence, what would you say?
This is explaining about the roots of Cuba salsa, or basically the salsa, the moment is why.
From a dance perspective, how the dance has developed coming from Africa to then coming to Cuba.
Let's start right. Let's start where when the Spanish people brought all the slaves from Africa, they basically, to make it almost quickly and easy, they put together all the culture and the Spanish culture have in terms of their music and dance. So in one point, the African copy the way that they dress, the way that they sing, and the way that they dance. So they put together, and from there is the one that we calling song. It's not one called song. So it's a Cuban traditional dance. Song in the music is have quite different influence. Have a Spanish, has Africa, have a Mexican, Yucatan, and have also from America. But what happened is, because also have the date or where exactly start some music, so in that particular type of music, we see that the music is basically Spanish, because the guitar and the instruments were like the drums. So you can know bongoes before was a chair with the skin, some of the animal skin, where they start to basically get the beats from there. And the bajo, with the bass, was the big, the big shells, the big one. I can't remember what it's called. The shells, yeah. The big shell. That was the bass. And so the clave didn't exist back when they start. They used to basically get everything to a bass, and percussion was basically a chair with a score, with a skin, and the guitar and the singer. There were about 4 or 5. And then they start to develop all the instruments you can see now. So that's why the influence, they go from Africa. There was the way they percuted, the beats of the music. The guitar was basically Spanish, completely Spanish. And the other one, the big shell, was basically the Aboriginal influence. So we got different way to take part from where the Cuban music starts. So it was only just one influence, it was different one. And in terms of the dance, for example, the Afro-Cuban dance, as I said, being from Africa, but what happened is to make the African people don't be in, back in the day, too upset because the Spanish people didn't let to continue to practice their religion and to dance and music. They basically did a syncretism between the sense of Spanish sense and Yoruba, in that case, Yoruba Orishas, and they put together, and one sense in Spanish represents in the Yoruba another sense. For example, Chango is Santa Barbara, and in
The Catholic religion.
Catholic. And Changoing is a richer from Yoruba. So they start to put together, and from there they start to practice all the music and dance. So that they go in the 6th of January, January was the day that's calling the Dia de los Reyes, where they have the opportunity to go out and do like a special, it's called like Huemilere. Huemilere means party, fiesta, celebration. And so basically they interpret all the music. That's all the only day of the year that they can do everything that they were want to do to keep the traditional and the music that they have. So yeah, is there any question you think?
Fantastic. So that's a summary of the background of the influence from Africa and how it got adopted in Cuba, and the religion, how the African religion had to then be adopted as well with the Catholic and all the different.
Yeah, yes. In terms of the dance, the music is for the back in the in 1845 when there was more, they get less the African people.
Keep the microphones close.
Interpret the dance and music was quite more easy for them because the influence of Africa was quite big in Cuba. They have about the numbers are maybe 10 or 11,000 African back in that time. So what they do, they start to practice in different area. They according with the background. For example, the people from Congo, they were based in Santo Espiritu, Pinar del Rio, and Santiago. So there was 3 different areas. So one was in the middle of Cuba, the other one's in east, and the other in west. So they put together the Congo with Yoruba, and the Yoruba with other tribal together. So they start to learn the culture. Was basically blend the African culture in one place, because no one can basically just express or practice or enjoy the music that they have. So they learn, the Congo learn the music from Yoruba, the Yoruba learn the music from Congo, and they bring all together. When they were basically free, the emancipation, when it was at the end of the 80s, they start to get their own group where they practice particular where they from, the Yoruba, the Congo, sorry. They start to practice their own music particular. So, bro, on top of that, because they were learning from other regions that they basically didn't know in Africa, when they were brought to Cuba, they start to know each other. So from there, where the Cuban music some African music start to be quite strong. So from the beginning of the 90s, many musicians like pianists and also guitarists, some people who play guitar, they were quite have that influence of the African music. So at the moment, when you going to listen any salsa music, sometimes you hear instruments calling bata, or the beat of rumba, or the beat of song, or the beat of any other different dances. So that's the blend of Cuban music. It's coming from the past, so go Spanish, Africa, and when they put together, they basically get one of the most important beats happen now in Cuba is rumba. The Beatles music, Beatles percussionists doing rumba is the one we call it now salsa. So more of the people say this is just a song, we don't have rumba as well, and you have to basically listen and be focused when you hear the music, so you can see, so you can hear the mixture of son, rumba, and Afro-Cuba. So sometimes the Afro-Cuba is difficult to get, but if you learn a bit more about Cuban or African Cuban music, it's basically where you can get in different parts and put together when you listening any Cuban music, not all of new Cuban music. So it's just basically salsa or son or cha-cha-cha or mambo. So we start to put together because it's something that we got into our background.
Fantastic, thank you, Ariel. So let's give now the opportunity to Robert White and your take on this journey of the salsa journey through the era.
Salsa journey, where we covered with Cuba. For us, what happened was the music moved into New York and the opening of the Palladium in 1940s.
Sorry. Oh, tissue, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so in the 1940s, what happened, what he was saying, and I'm pretty sure Joaquin will cover this in more depth or detail, but you had a musician called Arsenio Rodriguez, and he incorporated in the song, they had some basic instruments like the bass, the trez, the bongo, the clave, trumpet, and singer. And he introduced the piano and the congas. This was in the 1940s, and this now is the sound that moved to New York. So it was actually a song that was dancing, and they were doing that in the Palladium. They added to that a bigger horn section, yeah? And this could be seen as what you would call the first social. That's how I look at it, because in Latin dance, and you go to all the countries, it's very cultural. So if you go to a Colombian club, it's a culture. You're getting involved in that culture and the way they play music and the way they dance, and the whole way you deal with dance is completely different from how you're dealing with it today. We are very much in what you call a social environment, where we will dance with anyone. I could come up to see a lady standing there, I'll ask her for a dance, it's not a problem. But don't go to a Colombian club and try it, because it's not social, it's cultural, it's their club. Me and Jean started in a Colombian club. We started in England in a very much a cultural environment, and this was in 1993. And in that cultural environment, what happened is that if someone saw Jean and they went to dance with her, they'd come and ask me. And the first time it happened, I thought, well, why are they asking me? But that was the culture, you don't do that. And if I wanted to dance with a girl, I would ask the group that they were in. But what happened is that us now, we've taken on the dance and we do it as a social thing. So we're outside of that culture. So there's a kind of a bit of a divide with that. So what happened, if you look at the 1940s in the Palladium, it was a mix of Cuban, Puerto Rican, and American. So you had all the cultures coming together. The dancers that were dancing in there, they were dancing, you had jazz dancers going there, you had jazz musicians going there. So it was a whole mix of people, and the music and dance was developing. So if you look outside of, if you look at, say, most of the cultural dances, you see, most of the countries that you see, like Venezuela, I suppose, Colombia and Cuba, very much cultural when you go into their areas. But in New York, it was very much a social mix because they had other people coming in. But it's mainly Puerto Ricans that were doing the dance and opening their studios. So after doing Colombian and Cuban dance in a social environment, as well as going to the cultural in the Colombian clubs, we got to say from 93 to 97 when we started traveling to New York. In traveling to New York, we started to go to the dance studios, and what they were amazed with was that there were people outside of the Puerto Rican culture coming to learn. Like, we're from England, yeah, we're from the UK. And then we started meeting other people traveling, learning to dance, learning to take lessons from the on-two dancers of that time. But there was two distinct styles in New York at the time. There was the Palladium on-two, and there was the Eddie Therese 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. What happened at that time around, I would say 97, 98, 99, few people were learning, but by it hit 2000, it became what we call a revolution, because the revolution to me was 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. And with that, whether you dance on 1 or you dance on 2, everybody used that timing structure to teach and to learn to dance. And that's what got exported to Europe.
It's always been a street dance, so we
Yeah.
didn't count to it. So
Added
come in the
count to it.
2000s and the introduction of the counting
Yeah.
for teaching the
Right,
dance.
so that kind of revolutionized the way people were learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened, we were inspired by those dancers, and there was a promoter that brought Nelson Flores to London, and this was about 98, the end of 98. And so he came to London, and we were actually doing classes with him when we went to New York. So when he came to London, it inspired a lot of people to dance. But what he did, he started telling people the timing they dance on is wrong, because, you know, dancing Colombian, dancing with Cuban, we didn't care about time. We cared about feeling the vibe and just dancing. No, we didn't care. So he started pointing out what was wrong. Well, it wasn't wrong, but we're having a good time. But he was pointing out, it could be better if you done this, you know? And then he showed us the count, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. And every time, till today, we told him he spoiled our dancing. You know, we were having fun until he arrived. So what happened, it became formalized now that we had this count. And then he spoke to me and Jean, told us it was a festival in Washington, D.C. And there was, at that time, there was something called Salsa Web. It was like the first website that was like worldwide, and people could plug into that, like become a correspondent for them. And what you would do, you would sort of list anything to do with salsa in your city on their website. They had a convention, and a group of us decided to go. This was in 1999, May 99. So we went onto this convention, and we met the New York dancers and the dancers from LA. They all met up, and it was like massive. Now, a lot of you would have heard of like Eddie Torres' team. Eddie Torres' team at the time had a lot of famous dancers that were young, like Frankie Martinez and Franklin Diaz. Franklin Diaz was like a teenager. He was in that team with Frankie Martinez and quite a few other dancers that were like top dancers now that we knew. So that inspired a lot of people. We came back to the UK, and me and Jean been dancing. My cousin wanted to learn, but he was now looking at what we were doing compared to everybody else. So he asked us to teach him, even though we showed him teachers to go to. So that sort of gave us the thing to start Mambo City. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I think Jean was more the one that wanted to start it more than I was at the time, actually. Yeah. So we started setting up a class to teach, and then in doing that, we had now someone from New York asked us to set up a workshop for them because they were coming to London, but we didn't want to do it. We were working, wasn't a promoter, so I gave him the connection with a promoter to do it. And he was coming, but the promoter pulled out like a few weeks before, and he contacted us and asked us to do it because he's coming anyway. So we made a few contacts, set up a workshop in the studio, and he came. And from that, just that, everyone looked at us as on two. Yeah, and that's how Mambo City more or less
Was born.
Yes, but sort of took off, yeah, because we were just teaching and having like a party every year, something like that's going to be.
It's worth it, guys.
Yeah,
it's worth a
so-
trip. Come to London.
So that's what happened. But what we're saying happened now, it got to a regular thing now. Everybody from New York wanted to come through. And then it got this thing where London became the hub for Europe.
Right.
You know, so everyone came to London and they went from there outwards.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing started to grow. And now what was surprising to the dancers traveling was that they were seeing people that were non-Latino learning to dance. And they never come across this in all the years they've been dancing. So you've seen a lot of non-Latinos learning to dance, and they're now traveling and seeing that. And this thing now started to create interest where people were inviting them to other countries, and then congresses started growing out of that.
And then coronavirus came along.
Yeah. So this was a thing that made it really start to push on and grow and grow. And then what happened now with this count of 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, you had more people able to teach, because they
Enabled
they more or less had this. It's more or less they had a way of putting together teaching, but it was more based on tone patterns and count. So that's what started to happen, and really we developed what you call a social sort of dancing of salsa that was outside of the cultural
cultural side of things.
But one thing we have to be aware of is that because of that, we started picking what we wanted out of that.
Yes.
Yeah, like in the cultural side, we used to have merengue, pachanga, boogaloo, everything that was mixed in when you dance. But what was happening was on the social side, they just wanted the salsa, yeah? And that's why you have this thing where you just see mainly salsa in one room.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, guys, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask some questions very, very shortly, but now we have our last panelist who's now going to give us his overview about this Afro-Latin phenomenon, and then after that, we're open for questions, okay? So, Joaquin, what's your take on the Afro-Latin phenomenon?
Okay.
Oh, by the way, we fellow Venezuelans.
Okay, let me see, because this is like the solos, like you guys solo now. I'm like, I don't, it's too high for me now. I think let's say the Afro-Latin salsa phenomenon in the world, I see it as when you cook a rice or pasta, I always compare it because of that, because everyone cook the rice in a way in its house. So if you're Italian, you will do a risotto. So, you need Parmesan cheese to do that, right? But if you're in Cuba, right, you eat congri rice, yeah? If you're in Venezuela, you do the rice separate and the beans on the side.
You do the onions first.
Yeah.
You fry onions and then you put the rice.
So, in a way, this came from Africa and spreads like a virus, in a way. Yeah, because it's true. It's,
very topical.
If you see it a bit more farther, like, the seed was put in Cuba, But also, all the Cubans that left to New York, that even Brazilians has their own music, and it's also Afro-descendant. It developed different. So meaning that the rice was cooked different in Brazil than it was cooked in Cuba. Okay, so with music and dance, it happens the same. But now it's coming, going several times already, So I've been lucky to go, let's say, around the world teaching and meeting people, and dancers and stuff. And you get sushi, meaning that you get really good dancers, really good salsa musicians playing in Japan,
Yes.
And doing actually very good
Orquesta del
albums.
Sol.
You have La Orquesta del Sol, for example, yeah? Now it's Las Reinas.
Oh,
It's
no,
an amazing band. It's just women, Japanese women playing, and they play amazing.
Las Reinas, the queens.
Las Reinas. Yeah, I saw them live 2 years ago in Japan, and so wow, Also in Taiwan, we went to Taiwan. There was salsa bands there. In Thailand, it's Asia, and you get a lot of bands. Australia, we've been in Australia, and we share with 3 bands from Australia that are not only people from Peru, Ecuador, or someone that lives there. It's also Australians making music. Even some collaborations we have done, there's been a piano player, Danny J. He's a piano player, and he's from Australia, and he plays very crazy piano. So it's been developed not only in the Caribbean anymore. I mean, for me, it's not only the Caribbean. It's now it's done all around the world. So it was born. For me, it was born in Cuba, but it has developed everywhere because it's coming and going. And the funny thing is that if you think about it as a rice, that rice has also Chinese. Because in Cuba, if you go to a conga, comparsa, they play a Chinese trumpet, doesn't it? And the Chinese trumpet is from China. It's not Cuban. They brought it. from China. You know.
There was a big immigration when the China Empire. That was about well, 3 beaches full of China, from China, and once the ships had to stop in Santiago. That's why the Chinese trumpet start. It was in Santiago de Cuba with the conga y comparsa. Conga y comparsa is just the basically is but it's the national festival where it's celebrated each month from May in different towns. So different towns have their own way. But the most popular is the one from Havana, of course, and the one from Santiago. We always have that argument with Santiago. For me, is the countryside, and I'm from the city, Yeah, I live to you.
Yeah. So, but that's right. That's a good example that at the end it's from all around the world. It's a good example to follow because you cannot say that salsa. They call it salsa. It's really what we're playing is son or son montuno descendant, right? But let's call it salsa because we don't want to get into too much of a detail. But it's a mix, But the rice, the original rice, comes from here.
Venezuela.
From Africa.
Oh.
We have because Venezuela is another good example. We had a lot of congos from Africa in the coast. So we have rhythms like San Millán. If you hear San Millán, it's Congo.
Tambo,
it's like
Cuba.
palo. It sounds, for you guys, sounds like palo. It's not the same, but it sounds like. So there is a lot of rhythms and way of dancing that are very similar. So I always compare it with food because I like to eat. So pasta is Chinese, it's not Italian, but Italians do it their way. But if you go to Thailand, they do pad thai is pasta, but they do it out of rice. So everyone has their own.
Yeah, in salsa, each Latin American country has also their own interpretation as well. So you have the Cali style or the Colombian salsa. Venezuelan salsa has also very unique sound. Cuban salsa. So you see all the different influences as well within salsa.
And that's precisely because of that. Everyone spices up different. Like Colombians, for example, in Colombia they use the bell. The ones who will.
Cowbell.
The cowbell is like boop boop boop. It's like very high. Like if you hear boop boop, that's Colombian. Yeah. That's a Colombian salsa
Puerto
because they tune it very
Rican.
high. In Venezuela, the sounds fat, the percussion. It's like and they tune the heads like kind of low in certain parts. If you hear salsa from Puerto Rico, also they take a lot of bomba rhythms and traditional rhythms from there, and it has their own distinctive. It's also like speaking. From Venezuela, and I say azúcar. But if you go to Madrid, I say azúcar, or azúcar, or azúcar. Or if you go to Cuba, they say azúcar. Azúcar. If you hear Celia Cruz, so everyone says the same word, but they have their own accent. And I think that's the beauty of salsa music.
Salsa. Okay, so guys, how about, do you have any questions? Excellent. So let me see, Camilo, what was your question?
So, what makes salsa these days? Salsa is like, it's been cooked for years and years. So salsa has been cooked. Salsa has been cooked. How can I turn this up? Okay, cool. So salsa was cooked from years and years and years. What do you think it makes it still a very relevant genre that doesn't die with time like other musical and like cultural things?
Okay, so who wants to go first? So what makes salsa relevant to this day? Robert? Well, why am I using the mic? I've got my own.
It's a combination of things. I think for for Latin American people, it's their music. First and foremost, you have pop music, but that is their music. It's like saying what makes R&B relevant to the Americans or black music, what makes reggae relevant to the Caribbean.
Jamaicans.
But added to that, what you've got with that music is that you've got the dance, and you've got the dance which everybody shares, and that dance and what's happened, funny enough, is that because of the dance, it's kept alive a lot of the music. Because a lot of the music before weren't getting played. A lot of the musicians, even from what I heard, even Ray Barretto, from what I heard a speech that Albert Therese told, was that he brought Ray Barretto to his Congress. And Ray Barretto was someone that was playing salsa music, but it was jazz mainly that they were into. But he was astonished when he saw performers on stage performing to his songs, his mambo tracks that he had done years ago. And that's one of the things that, he really felt good about. And these sort of things, you're seeing that dancers tend to be keeping the music alive. And as long as the dancers keep keeping the music alive, the music will still be there. So you have the two sides of it. You have the culture, the Latin culture, that want to hear these bands. Like you play in Colombia, they have your music is far reaching, and your music also reaches Japan. Yeah, so you have all that. I used to be a reggae musician. I used to play in a reggae band years ago. And I used to play in a music they call Lovers Rock. Lovers Rock is big in Japan. And you wouldn't know it. They have reggae sound systems in Japan that still keeps the music alive. And I think music has that. So I don't think music itself dies so much. You might have other things that come up that the younger might keep going with. But with us, as a generation that's sort of grown into it, I've come from reggae music into salsa, yeah? And I stopped playing my instrument as a bass guitarist, yeah? And I picked up dancing salsa. So that shows you how much strength the music itself has and draw. Yeah. So, and people are coming into, hundreds and thousands of people are coming into learning salsa every year.
Right, and also I think the emergence of new bands.
New bands, yeah.
And that are now, especially in Europe now, we have the likes of Tromboranga and I think La Maxima. I think you guys have a band here in South Africa as well. Fuego,
yeah.
I think it's called. Don't know if they're recording. Oh, Candela? Okay, I knew it was something hot. Oh, okay, so what was your take on Camilo's question?
I have to be a bit aggressive in that way. I compare that salsa as a boxer. Pretty much.
You like analogies, I can see. Everything's an analogy.
All the time. I don't mean to be maybe aggressive in a way, but salsa, let's say salsa as the concept I have for salsa, which is what it was done in the 60s, 70s, 80s, like Ray Barretto or Arsenio Rodriguez was doing some, but let's keep that like the roots. It's hard to keep it alive because there is a lot of new technologies getting into it in the middle, which are good to, for certain things, because you get a lot of people that wants to record and they can record in their houses. But also it has, let's say, a kind of like a bad influence, what I see, is because Robert had a good way to say it yesterday or 2 days ago. Before salsa was played, and now a lot of musicians build it, but don't play it. So
music is now made.
It's synthetic.
Exactly. So I'm here. I'm from that side, So I personally try to make that, keep the salsa alive, meaning that I want to hear salsa orchestras on an album, not a computer.
As a DJ, actually, I'm finding quite interesting how people are now reacting to. There is some other DJs that are now creating music, and it's all synthetic, and they don't actually have a band, but they come up with these songs that they create in their bedrooms, and people are loving it, and I feel like, like a vampire when the sunlight comes on.
Yeah. That's good. Like a lot of, don't get into names, but there is a lot of people now, like DJs, or not even DJs, like well, I'm not gonna say name, but there's someone that goes like, oh, ta-ta, and there is not even a band there. It's him recording a loop of someone, you know, and then they put the bell, and then they record a voice of someone, ta-ta, and they cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste, put the volume up, and mix it with, boom. It lasts 3 minutes because I want them to dancer to hear it, and a very sticky chorus. That's good. But for me, salsa, it has to have a message. At least in an album, 70% of it, it has to have a message. If you hear Tromboranga, there is Otro ladrillo en la pared, it's something, it's a lyric about what's going on with immigration, and I don't know, etc. If you hear Acara, it's about all the lies there is on the media, you know. Acara, ¿qué pasó? You know, it talks about that. If you hear Humildad, it's about, you know, humble, whatever.
Being
so
humble.
There has to be a message for it. That in the 80s, 70s, there was that. It was about that. That's what salsa is for me, because it always had not a political, but a social message. Okay? It's not only about, bailar gordita, yeah, vamos a bailar. No, it has to be there also. Okay? But we make fun of our own problems, you know? Because you are, at the end, you're singing, I know, oh, estoy quebrado, estoy quebrado, I'm broken. But you make laugh out of that. But you are recording it yourself with your breaking your lips when you play trombone. That's why with Tromboranga we like to record all on the same room at the same time, because you're gonna get that spirit,
the vibe.
Okay? So it's hard for us, and for some other bands that do that, compete with someone that is in the house with the computer, get that conga sampler, get this, put it all together. I call Jimmy Bosch to a solo. Okay, I put it there. I call this one guitar player. Okay, oh, it sounds amazing. Yeah, the song is good. And you record 10 you record the trombone 10 times, and it sounds like, wow, it sounds amazing. But it's not gonna sound like that live. That's why when you see Tromboranga live, we sound like the album, you know. But they put a lot of compression, so it sounds like another comparison. It's like a picture. Now everyone has Instagram, you know, and everyone puts their photo like, then you put the filter, you know, people put whites on their eyes and their teeth, and then they put themselves like no wrinkles, and then when you go, oh, we meet at the lobby, okay, we go to the lobby, it's like, where's the guy? You know, and you have the girl next to you, and it's like this, you know? So it's the same with the music. You get very good albums now, but when you go to see the band, it's not like the album, you know? And for me, that needs to be kept alive. And that's why I say, I compare it for boxing.
Proper salsa life.
Proper salsa, proper, let's not say it like that, because I'm not saying that the other guys are not doing good salsa, it's good, but it's another way to
synthetic,
build it, not play it. And also it's another way to send a message. It's just about love, which is okay, I'm not against that. But
okay. Well, we're going to come to you shortly, Ariel. I want to get one more question in. If you let me the microphone. What's your name, sorry?
So I'm Steve.
And are you from?
I'm from South Africa.
From Johannesburg?
No, from Cape Town.
From Cape Town. Cool.
But I live in Spain. I live in Granada, Spain.
All right. Okay. Great.
My question, just based on what we're talking about now, and hearing how you think music is evolving in the sense of becoming more electronic and more synthesized. How do you guys hear or see the evolution of movement and dance? Like you've probably seen a lot of evolution in your time, but how do you see the actual, because sometimes you feel like in dance, we've cooked all the rice, all the movements are kind of there. It's kind of, all the recipes have been designed. You sometimes get that feeling, but you can never go against evolution and human creativity, like how that's going to evolve. And I'd just like to see from your guys' perspective, how do you see the dance scene, or social dancing in general, how do you think that's going to evolve in the next, say, 10, 15 years?
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'm going to start with Ariel, being the dancer. And I'll tell you a story. I remember one of my memories, he probably doesn't know this, but one of my early memories of Ariel, we were in a party. It was Jean and Robert's party. And a Cuban song comes on, and I remember I was dancing and I went like this. Ariel looked at me like, what are you doing? Anyway, you don't remember that, I do.
No. Right. Try to make quite short. What happened is the evolution, or basically the improvement for the dancer. Let's put England, for example. We have a different influence, as Robert was saying earlier. So Colombia, a little bit Puerto Rico, Cuba, and countries like crossbody. You correct me all the time. Crossbody. Okay. So what happens when you put together? There is a dancer. I want to go through them. Through him, he's a dancer. He have a knowledge of crossbody, Colombian and Cuban. But he was basically building the Cuban style with me. He was having training. And he will change completely as to his improvement. So what sometimes I do, I go into a festival. Sometimes the lady doesn't let me have a rest. So I want to watch how people dance each year. I have seen in England improvement, but still not quite the standard compared with Europe. But I don't blame the dancer, I blame the teachers sometimes, because they give it too much way to interpret. I respect the way that they are, but I give it too much to the students or dancer who want to learn or want to improve. So when I say give it too much, for example, in particular, the counting, which is when I arrived in England, for me was quite shock, because we don't counting. In Cuba, we don't count. We call the dance according with the rhythm. The cha-cha-cha tempo, cha-cha-cha tempo. We don't say, I don't know, something else. This song tempo. This salsa tempo. So we put tempo at the end. So the tempo of salsa is quite fast. The tempo of song is quite slow, which is people call it on two, because you don't go immediately in one. That's the difference. But we don't never call counting. We start to counting because we start to teach mainly tourists or European people. But in that case, when I go to a class and I see that the dancer can get more from the teacher if the teacher doesn't give it too much. For example, counting is fine, but style is in one way. You can give a style, a tempo, listen to music, too many things. So when the dancer finishes the class, he wants to as a show off in the night, he can coordinate. So that's one point I see the evolution or the development, how people improve. It doesn't go quite fast or quick as it should be. But in 10 or 15 years, as you say, I think we'll be better if the teacher, because I am blaming the teacher, but they are the only one I have to talk, because they are the one do the instruction. And if the teacher just give him more, the dancer to be focused more in listening to the music, rather than interpret themselves and look amazing, it's better. Because sometimes they go off tempo because they want to show to the audience or whatever it is in the dance room what he learned, and he learned. And the music was there, and he was there. So that's the one thing I think will be the thing we have to push. Don't give it too much style and give it more understanding. When you understand, you interpret. If you don't understand, you interpret. I always put a sample to everyone. I remember in Oxford, was most of the students, and I said, listen, if you don't understand the music, do you know when you go to the nightclub and you got the beat, any music, and you start to move, your own rhythm, that's how I want. Just listen to the music and you follow, go without bite. But if you start to give it too much things from the beginning, the
That's
music will be the last one, which should be the first one. I always, when I play the music, I start, so I give you the routine, but before I give you the routine, I start to move myself and make it follow me. And that's my feeling. I just trying to transfer my feeling to them, which is difficult. But well, they will get it. I start to move and make it one, like a minute. Now, and they go on tempo. Yeah? So this is the way, this is me. Yeah, but I think if that's happened, that will be change where you say the improvement will be much better in everywhere. Yeah.
Okay, Robert, so as a promoter and being someone who has to pick your artist carefully, what difference have you seen? Let's keep it brief as well, because I want to put in a question.
In the dance, what we've seen is from when we started first learning, we had instructors that they only done salsa. Salsa was the only thing they done. Now you're seeing people that are coming from other dance backgrounds. They have other skills. Some's got ballet, some's got hip hop, and they're bringing these elements into salsa that they do, and it makes them look exceptional, and they have style. But the thing is, to touch on what Ariel was saying, is that the average guy that comes to learn salsa tends to be visual. He tends to see like someone doing turn patterns and think, well, I want to learn that. And that's what attracts guys to it. And when they come, they're not about the learning the foundation, like what you say, unless they're into Cuban dance so much, but they tend to want to learn the patterns, and because of the count, also, touch on what he says, we're too reliant on the count in teaching, because as soon as someone comes in to learn to dance, before you even put on the music, you're teaching them to count.
Yes.
And so they're not listening to the music, they're tuned into the count, and they're tuned into doing patterns. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. And it becomes like a mantra.
Robotic.
Yeah, and that's what they learn to dance with. And so what you're saying, 100% right, it makes it difficult for them to learn to dance the foundation of the dance, because they're not listening to the music.
So in the performance point of view, as you said, there's more influence now of dancers having different backgrounds, professional backgrounds in terms of the different dance styles.
That's what I'm going to touch on. So what happens now, you have these dancers or performers that come now and perform on the stage. They have these different backgrounds and they perform very high levels. So they want to teach this. So you have these dancers that come in, students that come in to learn this, but because they don't have the foundation of listening to music and interpreting that, they want to know the count to everything they do, which everything can't be just done on a count. You know, you've got to be able to feel and express some of the things they do, and it takes a long time as a dancer that's learning to dance salsa to reach a level where you can do that. So where you probably would have learnt that in 1 year, all those elements, it's taken you a longer time to reach that, because in the first few years of your dance, you're learning patterns and count, and really you don't want to do no other dance. You won't even look at kizomba or bachata, you know, if you focus on that. Now people are paying attention to more of the other dances that's bringing it in, and in organising festivals, people have choices of taking different workshops, and some of them get inspired to go on to want to do more, like get more in-depth knowledge and like starting again, like taking Cuban Afro classes, Afro-Cuban classes to improve their understanding of the music and movement.
Fantastic. Okay, I think we have one more question. Well, probably we'll have time if you also want to have a question. Is it Chris? Crystal from here, from Johannesburg.
Belgium, but I live in Swaziland.
Oh, yes, right. Welcome.
I just wanted to comment on the building of the music. I think in dancing you have people that like, for example, dancing on live bands. I love live bands, and some other people feel a little bit, I don't know, they prefer maybe the more predictable song, dance. Because if you go to live bands, you know, you don't know what, you know, you have the song, but they improvise, and that's what I like. But some people feel uncomfortable. So I think you have like two kinds of dancers, you know. Okay. And then another thing I wanted to say, that I have the impression that in the salsa, there's no real cultural appropriation. Nobody's blaming other people from, this is my culture, my song, my thing, no.
I have my own point of view on that one, but I think Joaquin wants to answer that. Okay.
How long do we have? How many minutes do we have? Okay, I'm gonna try to make it short. You were talking about the live bands for the dancers and the DJs. DJs again, live bands, right?
Yeah, the building of the song.
To make it short, I think, and that's my personal thing, I think bands needs to understand what dancers want if you are at a festival. If you're a salsa festival, you have to understand that the dancers, they need certain tempos and they need certain time of long song. And you have to understand it's not about you. It's not like, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna do a solo and blah, blah, blah. No, it's about them. They want to enjoy, and you are there to make them enjoy. Not to, you have to enjoy what you do, but it's for them. So a lot of bands don't understand that, and in my personal thing, that I'm lucky to go around and see other bands the day before we play, and I see some bands that they start playing, and then it's timbal solo, and the band is not even grooving. So people are just dancing out of time, they don't even care, and it's 7 minutes solo, and then the other one comes, 5 minutes solo, and they're already like, they want to change partners. So you have to make sure that, So I understand that sometimes I blame it on the bands, because they have to understand it's a salsa festival for dancers. Now, if you're at a music festival, it's different, because people go to hear the music and see how talented you are hearing. Okay? So for me, I blame the dancers. And now, cultural appropriation, about what? Because it's relative. We are clear when we play, at least us, that we're playing Cuban music. But obviously, it's our interpretation as a Venezuelan. Okay, because we in the band, the cool thing about Tromboranga, I think, is that we are different countries, different religion, different political
views,
and different ages, which is very important also. We have, one of them is 21 and the oldest is 63, but we all get together, and we do music. And even though Diego is from Cuba, the other one is from Colombia, we are clear that everything comes from Africa in Cuba, and Spanish in Cuba, and Chinese in Cuba, but it developed also in Venezuela in a certain way, because we mix it with all rhythms, in Puerto Rico with their rhythms, and we like certain type of music. So about appropriation, I don't know, me, I don't go like, yo soy cubano y esto se toca así. I never say that. Actually, the first thing, you came to the workshop today, so the first thing that I think everyone should say is like, I am from Colombia, and this is the way I learned it, even though I learned it with Cuban. Or I'm from Venezuela, and I learned it with someone from... So I don't think I don't believe about cultural appropriation, but I do believe that it doesn't matter where you come from, but you have to respect the tradition. Like you were saying, in a way, if you're gonna do new steps because you want to do like this and catch her here, yeah? I think that was your question about evolution of the steps, dancing. If you want to do that, that's okay. But you have to make sure that you keep, if you're dancing changui, I'm gonna do evolution of changui and I'm gonna do changui tricks, I don't know, it doesn't, for me, I don't know. It's breaking like the traditional thing of it. For example, bachata, I don't want to get into trouble, but I'm going to say it. I love bachata, and I love the evolution that I have made. But I don't know, it's my personal opinion, I don't know why they call it sensual bachata. And if someone can really explain it to me, because I don't know why they call it sensual. They should have called it sensual. But well, I leave that there, and I'm going to have some
drop
food.
the mic. Okay. Anybody else in the audience would like to ask a question?
Is it a case of less is more and it just takes time to become a better dancer? Especially if you don't come from a dance background. It's really experience in playing with the music and not doing too much early on or not doing too much during the dance.
What happens within this, from what you're saying about doing too much, from the guy's point of view, from when we was talking about it, they're focused on turn patterns. And one of the things we always tell guys when they're doing the classes is that the average guy has about 5 turn patterns that they do. About 5. When they learn a new one, they drop one. That's how it works. So you're forever just doing your 5 turn patterns. So everybody that the guy dances with, they're having the same dance. And it doesn't matter what music is playing, because that's how it kind of works. So, and that reason is because they're focusing on turn patterns. Unless you're Super Mario and can remember a million moves, that is what the average person is going to do. So the thing now is to switch the focus from the turn patterns to learning to dance, to listen to the music, feel the music. And then what happens is that the moves will come. So what you need to focus on is the connection with your partner and the connection with the music. That's what happens in Kizomba of all dances. And if you look at Kizomba, it's completely less, right? There's no more there, it's completely less. But the people dancing it, they're connected. And they will dance all night in that, connected. Yeah? And that's the sort of level you want to feel, connected to the music. And if you see doing Afro, Rumba, they do that. They can let go and they can dance. Most of the guys learning turn patterns, they're too frightened to let go. They let go, the girl let go and the girl wants to express herself and the guy will say, all right, you've got 4 beats right now, back to the turn patterns, yeah? And that's kind of what it is. And if you speak to ladies, you'll find that they want to connect and dance. They don't want a multitude of turns and they don't want triple spins, right? Multiple triple spins throughout the dance. Well, the ones that are dancing anyway. But like I say, less is more in what you're saying from that perspective. You know, just getting the foundation. The basic step is the hardest step to learn. The basic. Just having a good basic step is the hardest part to learn, and that's the thing that they need to work on. You see guys doing turn patterns like crazy, and the basic is not there, but the turn patterns are flowing, and the more complex the turn pattern, the worse the basic looks. Yeah?
You've been here since the beginning of the seminar. So what we've covered this afternoon, do you have any questions? I mean, we have a very experienced panel here. If now is your chance to ask them any questions.
I think my question has been covered to some extent, but I think it revolves around...
Oh, sorry, what's your name? What's your name? Patrick from?
I'm from Joburg. I'm from
Joburg.
the local guy. It's essentially around dancing in the music. How do you really master it? And I think you did cover it to some extent, but I think that's a challenge for a social dancer to be able to dance within the music. For example, dancing to the club and being into it. I think for me, that's the hardest part. And you mentioned the fact that one needs to get to learn and master the basics. So that's my take, essentially.
Would you like to add anything to that? Or shall I take another question?
Well, I think I mentioned a little bit about the question early. In terms of the clave, let's start from there. It's quite difficult to start from there. I used to do it, but I stopped because it's difficult. Even for our Cuban people, when they start, it's difficult, but it's easy. But when they go home, the family or friend are into the art or music, we can't help them, so it's different. So when you start to learn how to dance, in this case, salsa, or Cuban salsa, or let's say song, it's better you give just the overall, or the tempo, or the rhythm of that particular music, or the tempo is easy. So, and then make it start to develop to understand the particular elements that the music have, which is going to help to improve. So the clave and the bass, in this case song, they are just two instruments that are more important for you follow, because both of them are the one marking all the time how to perform the music. This is slow, this is fast, but if you follow that beat, or you basically talk the student, the one who want to learn how to follow that will be easy. Or it's a quite complex way to learn with the clave. So I went straight with the clave when you say the clave, because I know it's difficult to know. But if you basically go with a simple way, that's the other thing, simple way is the method, the way that you teach is quite important, and they can absorb on the way that you basically perform or the way that you're going to make them understand. So it's quite, anyway, it's quite good to learn, first of all, with a clave when you learn, for example, Cuban dance. I'm happy with everything, I think.
Okay, thank you, Ariel. Right, we're going to be wrapping up the session shortly, but before we do that, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask the panelists to give us the main takeaways, the main topics that they would like you to take away with you this afternoon. But before we go into that, any more questions?
There are different styles on the salsa and also different styles on the bachata, but when would you say, look, it's not bachata anymore, or look, when it's not salsa anymore, because there's a differences on there? What basically then also conversely, what is the real core of it that you say, well, yes, this is really salsa, and the other one is not a salsa dance style anymore, or like with bachata, where you say, well, sensual is not bachata anymore, or in case, if you compare the kizombas. Can you say something about that, maybe?
Is the question clear, guys? So.
There must be the freestylers on there.
No, I just, if you want to start.
Yeah, you take it. Well, okay. Okay, I don't want to be like, these dude is but we have to come again to the food. If you go to eat rice, yeah, and you go to a Colombian restaurant, or no, a Cuban restaurant, let's make it more graphic. We go, you want arroz con gris, and you ropa vieja, you know, and you sit down, and they put you rice with Parmesan cheese on top. It has happened to me. You say like,
What is this?
yeah, this is not what I asked. So, would you pay for that? Would you eat it? Maybe yes.
Well, if you
Would
don't
you pay
know.
for that? Maybe if you're obligated to eat it and pay, but I wouldn't. So I went to the guy and said, you are saying that you are selling arroz con gris and you're giving me rice with cheese on top and beans, right? And I think you also as a Cuban, if you go to a place that says Cuban food and you go and you ask for tostones and they bring you arepas, you'll be like, no, I asked for tostones, not arepas. Oh, well, but pay, because you eat it. We don't have, I mean, that's tostones for us. You will be a bit, I wouldn't pay for that, okay? So, for me, it's like that. You have to be clear. Maybe I like arepas, and I want to eat the rice with the cheese, because I'm hungry and I like it also. I'm not saying that, you know, you don't have to eat it, because maybe you like it, but that's not what I asked for. So you have to, I think, before you, especially if you're a teacher, I mean, if you social, you can do whatever. Just have fun. Social, you have fun. But if you have the responsibility of being a teacher, a choreographer, and you're saying that I'm doing a show of changui, or I'm doing a show on rumba cubana, I'm sorry, and I stand up, and I start doing like, this, you know? Or I don't know, something else, I'm not a dancer. And you say this is rumba cubana, I think the first one who's going to stand up here and hit me is him, right? Because, no, but later, yeah. but because you're not getting the dish you want. The same happened with an Italian. If you invite to Italian, that has happened to me, and you cook carbonara at your house, he's like, nah, this is not carbonara. I do the best carbonara in the world. You know? Because maybe you are putting cream on it, and carbonara doesn't need cream. You understand? So it's about being honest, so to what you're doing as a teacher and as a choreographer, I think. If you're doing rumba, this is traditional rumba, it should be like this. Now, I'm putting a hip-hop step, right? Or if I'm doing music, also, I'm not gonna say, oh, I have a changui band. Oh, great. And then you go there and you have a guitar player with an electric guitar and an organ. Changui is not play with electric guitar and organ. You know? So you have to keep the limits. Sorry.
Okay, Ariel.
What happened is we are now in the fusion revolution. That's happened. There is a music you heard, for example, in Cuba they call it salsa-ton. Salsa.
Reggaeton.
And then está mamba, something new I heard somewhere, mambo something. And the thing is the fusion they are doing. It's not us. Yeah? It's basically we have to follow what the musician creates. So we try to do our best, but we blame the musician.
So, okay, so we just want to wrap it up. So thank you so much, guys, for attending, and I hope that you are able to take something away with you today from all of the conversations that we've had this afternoon. And I would like for the panelists to actually give us just one or two main points that you would like our audience today to take away with them. So what would be the main thing that you would advise them after this seminar? So just very quickly, what would be your main point?
Try to be deep in where you're going to learn, and try to be basically honest with yourself where you can learn and where you cannot learn. Yeah?
Be honest with yourself. Fantastic. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you. Robert, what would be the main takeaway?
The main takeaway from this is be inspired by the teachers that are there and the dancers you see, and don't be afraid to ask the good dancers that you see what it takes for you to reach that sort of level. Yeah, too many times you'll see dancers and you'll just go and take a class, but you don't actually get to speak to them. You'll get much more out of speaking to them and understanding the direction you should go in to learn. And that's what builds, yeah.
Great, thank you. And Joaquin?
Enjoy. Don't just enjoy when you go social dancing. I'm not a dancer. I like to go out and dance. Don't think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just dance and enjoy. It doesn't matter if you know 2 steps. If someone of you dance with me, know that I don't even know what I'm doing. Just enjoy and dance on the beat. Enjoy. And second, go back to the tradition before, make sure that you know the traditional thing or the traditional culture that you are hearing. So hear a lot of music. You need to hear a lot of music. It's my advice.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, guys. I hope you have learned something from our panel this afternoon. And enjoy the rest of the festival. Thank you so much. And thank you to our panelists. Cheers, guys.